What's going on, everybody? It's Matt, aka the Lumberjack Landlord, here with my good buddy Millennial Mike. Millennial Mike, how's it going, my man?
I'm good, dude. I'm excited to do these videos.
I know it's exciting. So we talked about it this week, and what was really great was all the notes that we got last week saying, everybody saying, hey, that was actually really awesome. I wouldn't know how to handle myself in that situation. And so I self-manage. I got 20 years experience of handling myself in said situations. So what we talked about this week was actually bringing up a number of other videos and understanding where the tenant's coming from, listening to what they have to say, and then what our reaction would be. Obviously, personality wise, for those of you who watch my show, I don't have the longest of fuses, but I'm actually really good when it comes to working with tenants. It's where I've actually groomed my patience. So I think that it's helpful. So what we'll do is we'll just go through a few videos like we usually do, and then we'll kind of talk about how we would respond and react to those tenants in that situation. Because I think the biggest thing that a lot of bad landlords don't understand is that they're people. They're people. Let's just start there. I was a tenant for quite a while before I became a homeowner, as was my wife. And so I know that when we were working with our landlords, we just wanted to make sure that we had the opportunity to have a discussion. And if we had that discussion, then we might not get our way, but if we at least had a respectful discussion about it, and then it was still my choice of where I would go from there. So thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, man. I rented from 18 to 28. Then I bought my first rental property, a duplex, a house hack, 28 years old, and I've been doing that ever since. So I remember what it was like to be a tenant and feel frustrated about a rent increase and things like that. So what we're going to be doing is reacting to some more viral TikTok videos. And we have some that are just funny, that are honestly just hilarious, and I hope you laugh at. We have some where you can tell a tenant is just pissed. They don't understand what's going on. They're angry. So we're going to go through at least a few of these. And then we'll get Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord's response, how he would handle it or explain it if somebody came in with this. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll start with video number 1.
And these have not been pre-screened, just so everyone knows.
Yep. No, Matt has not seen them yet.
No.
I'm raising your rent next year, then I guess I'm moving. Nothing like the annual game of chicken with my landlord. I love that lease renewals have become ransom notes for your home. This place doesn't appreciate in value, you know. It's not a share of Amazon stock. It's a 1-bedroom apartment with an ant problem. I gotta cover the cost of maintenance. What maintenance? You talking about a caulk gun and a few new light bulbs? Use the thousands of dollars I continue to give you.
Okay, now in my opinion, that guy, he is pretty funny. He's actually a well-known TikTok creator. He has a bunch of different skits kind of similar to this about business and working. But what do you think about his points? What do you think about his points about repairs and rent increases being a ransom note?
I mean, a little aggressive. Like, I wouldn't really consider it a ransom note. I mean, I'd probably put him, I didn't graduate high school, but I'm pretty sure that they cover economics in high school, and that is supply and demand. So at the end of the day, I think that his mouth is likely writing a check that his ass can't cash, because his landlord's going to say, okay, sounds good. Because I know for me, we try and work with our existing tenants. It's actually one of the strategies that Dion deploys called the binder strategy. We don't do it in front of people. We don't then like walk them through a binder. We literally just send them a text message and say, hey, you guys have, if they've been a great tenant, you've been a great tenant this year, we'd love to have you guys renew. That being said, here are 3 or 4 units in your area and what they're currently renting for. Let me know what you think is fair for a rent change. And if we can do it, we're happy to. And if not, we understand, and we understand that it's time for you to move on. That really puts us in a position where we're not negotiating with our tenants. We really are just trying to understand what they feel is fair. And at the end of the day, if they don't feel what the market is fair, then they can go do the work and find a better place. I don't mind. So I recognize landlords for what we are, which is we provide a service. We provide a service to the market where people that can't afford to buy a home or for strategic reasons haven't decided to purchase a home, we provide them housing for a cost. I think one of his true points, and one of the things that I actually really get behind is being a self-managing landlord, is I would be annoyed too if there's a consistent issue that still hasn't been remedied. Like, be a good landlord. Take care of your tenants, they'll take care of you. Then that's not a confrontational conversation like he has. I think at the end of the day, I'd love to know if he's ever owned a home, because likely they have no idea that Water, if it's city water and sewer, goes up every year. Taxes go up every year. Maintenance goes up every year. When we say maintenance, it can be lawn mowing, snow plowing. It can be, well, we had to do the roof this year, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you have to raise the rents to keep up with the cost of even inflation. 8%, 9% inflation, that kind of happens, and like it's happening right now. And you look at 5 years ago, there was 2% inflation. For years, there was like a 4 or 5 year period. I didn't raise rents at all because my costs really didn't change. But as they do continue to change, the other thing too is as an investor, you have to recognize that you have to dance with the one who brung you. And the tenant's very important, but the bank is even more important because the bank is going to make the decision on whether or not to loan you money on your next deal. And if you show that you have no pricing elasticity where you can actually raise rents, then you're going to have a problem. They're going to look at it and say, every year you make less money on this property. I've been through one of those reviews. They looked at a property and they said, every year you make less money on this property. And I said, well, if you look at where the expenses are, we did a bunch of capital projects, like a roof, like siding, like windows. And I said, so that property still makes money, but it doesn't make nearly as much as all of our others.
Right.
Because we're actively going through and upgrading it. So I can understand the frustration, but again, at the end of the day, in a landlord market, like what we're in right now, where there's a massive shortage of housing, I'd be very careful in throwing out the, hey, I'll just leave. I get it. It's frustrating for him. But I think that the landlord could alleviate a lot of that stress if they took better care of it and they did things like, the ant control thing and this and that and the other. Also, don't know how much money that landlord's making on that property. Who knows?
Right.
Impossible to say. If they're making literally 6 or 8%, which is, in a lot of markets, it's decent, 6 or 8% on a single family. There's not a lot of money to go around. Like that landlord ain't getting rich. They're not getting rich by the $100 or $150 increase that they gave you, because I promise you, between taxes, insurance, and water and sewer, which most landlords pay, they're probably seeing that. So I understand his frustration, but that's the kind of conversation that I would have with them. But I think I would have better footing to stand on because I would have taken care of the ant problem as an example.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think when most people think here maintenance, what they don't understand, if the tenant, the average tenant thinking to themselves, I don't break anything, I haven't caused any problems, and I keep this place clean. What do you mean maintenance? What are you talking about? As he mentioned, a couple of light bulbs and some caulking. Maybe he asked him to caulk something at one point. What they don't understand is, look, buddy, I'm going to own this property for 30 years. Over the next 30 years, I'm going to have to swap a roof out. I'm going to have to change out a water heater. I'm going to have to do the furnace. I'm going to have to do the AC. Maybe we have to do new concrete in the driveway at some point. There's going to be all these huge expenses that come up eventually, and it may not happen while you live here. In fact, that's good for you if it doesn't happen while you live here. But every month I have to set aside money for these large projects. And so I have a bank account where I transfer a percentage of your rent in there every single month. And 5 years from now, way after you've moved out, now the roof needs repair, and I have a $30,000 roof repair that I have to put together. And so what they don't understand is, look, buddy, I'm so happy that it's only light bulbs and some caulking while you're here. But at some point that's going to happen. And that's why over the entire 30 years, any tenant's going to live here. Some of their rent's going to get transferred over. And eventually when these big projects happen, then we're going to be dipping into that account and paying for these projects. And we have to raise what we charge you, because 30 years from now, that roof's going to cost more than it did today. And so is every other project. Absolutely.
100%. And you never know when those things are going to come up. I think the last thing that I would add to that is, when you're doing your job as a landlord, you're going to be in the 90% renewal rate. You're going to be in the 90 percentile, 90% plus. And if you're in the 70s and 80s, you really need to look at how you're operating your business.
You say renewal rate, what do you mean?
So when somebody comes up for a lease renewal, over 90% of the time, they're re-signing with you.
Right. Okay, I understand what you mean. Yeah, that's ideal too, because the most expensive thing you can do is have turnover.
Yeah. The challenging thing is that I don't fear turnover, especially in a market like this. For the last years, I don't fear turnover, because I get more money when I take back the unit and I redo or spend $4,000 or $5,000 and I put it back out on the market at a much higher rent. I mean, we just did one where we spent $5,000. The rent went up $600 a month. My return capture is less than 1 year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when the tenant was, getting holier than thou and saying, fine, I'll just leave. Okay.
Mhm.
I can't keep here, and it's fine. So I just think that people always need to try and put themselves in another person's shoes.
Mm.
And if you do that, like, no landlord's going to sit down and go, well, I'm going to go through my balance sheet with you and show you exactly how much money I'm making on this, so you can know and empathize with me. I'm not saying, but I think both sides need to be better understanding and having the conversation, I believe.
No, agreed. Communication is key for pretty much any relationship you'll ever have, business, personal, or otherwise. All right, let's move into another video.
What the hell? What is this? 3 days to get out.
Yes, ma'am, 3 days. You haven't made a full rental payment in about 3 months.
He doesn't know what I know. Watch this.
Actually, since you accepted partial payments from me, per the Landlord Tenant Act, I actually don't have to vacate this property in 3 days. Our agreement restarts to where I don't have to make another payment for 30 days, which means you were better off accepting no money from me than just taking a partial payment, because it's just like me making a full payment when I only pay half.
Dang, you're right. How the heck?
All right. So that's pretty much the end of that one. So what do you think about partial payments, Matt? Have you ever had people try to pay partial payments? What is your thoughts on that? How do you avoid it?
Yeah, so that's one of the strikes against like taking payment via PayPal and Venmo,
Mhm.
is that it
Yeah.
can just show up in your account.
Right.
So and so that's one of those things where a lot of the property software management products will actually stop a partial payment
Mhm.
because they know that a partial payment starts the clock over.
Right.
And so one of the things that you can do, I don't know if this is unique to New Hampshire, but you can actually accept that partial payment if you give them a note saying that I appreciate your partial payment. However, this does not stop the eviction process until you are completely paid up.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't think that's the case here in Washington.
Oh yeah, I
So-
bet it's probably not. Yeah.
Probably not on the
Yeah.
West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I would
probably
imagine.
not. But that's the great thing about our state, is that a majority of our tax revenues, or a majority of the spending from the state, comes from property taxes.
Mhm.
So the state's aligned with landlords because they understand that if a landlord's not getting paid, he ain't paying his property taxes.
Right.
And the
Right.
majority of the property taxes, it's split between the city and the state. And so they're aligned from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, again, at the end of the day, professional tenants certainly know that rule. So that's one of the things to beware. But at the same time, too, I think that we are slower to post a demand for rent and an eviction notice. We are slower in doing that because we
Okay.
recognize that people have life situations that come up. And the only time that we do is when we're not getting any responses. We've called, we've emailed, we've sent text messages, we've, mail. If we're not getting any message, then yeah, I mean, I got to get you to respond to me and just make sure that I need to know what's going on.
Mhm.
We work with people all the time. You have to be flexible.
Mhm.
Or I believe that you have to be flexible. There's plenty of landlords that are like, tough, pay me. We're flexible. We work with our tenants. And I think that's what makes us a great landlord, is we actually care about our tenants. And I think that landlords really need to understand that you can win the battle and lose the war.
Mhm. Yeah.
I've seen guys win the battle and then get $10,000 worth of damage done to their property, and then they sue the person and then they win. Guess what?
They got no money.
No money. They're not paying anyway.
Yep. Yeah. I take partial payments on most of my houses in Gary through my property manager, because she has relationships with these tenants, and these tenants, I hate to say it because it sounds a little callous, but sometimes there's a reason why tenants are tenants.
Oh,
They're
for
just
sure.
not good with
Yeah.
money. And I have a couple of different tenants who pay me half of the rent at the first of the month and half of the rent on the 15th of the month.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
there's their first paycheck portion, there's their second paycheck portion. And throughout all of COVID, I had multiple tenants, who missed a month, but then made it up another month later. And this, that, we worked with all these people. We only did one single eviction out of my 8 units out there throughout all of COVID. And that was for somebody who got put on house arrest at his mama's house in another state, not even my house. And guess what? We couldn't get any response. We couldn't get any letters or anything received or text or anything. It was just like, dude, you told us you're on house arrest. Are you coming back? What are we doing here? And so finally we had to evict that guy. But other than that, we worked with everybody.
We literally had a group of 4 roommates, and one of them just decided to leave. And we didn't hear, and so we don't get his rent for 1 month, and then we don't get it a second month. but we know that they get deployed like 2 and 3 months at a time. And so sometimes they come back, but usually they pay before they leave for the months.
Right.
And hey, every once in a while it happens where they leave and they didn't pay, but they'd always been good about it. So we didn't really think about it. It wasn't a big deal. And then 3 months passed and we're just kind of like, okay, what's going on?
Right.
And he literally responded back. He goes, yeah, I moved out. Oh, when?
Thanks for that, buddy.
Yeah, 3 months ago. Okay. And he's like, well, I told you I wanted to be on the lease. I go, if you were on the lease, I wouldn't have let you out of the lease, but you are a month-to-month tenant. I hate to tell you, but you didn't give any notice. You owe for those months.
Right. Right.
Like,
Exactly.
that's not on me to like check and make sure. Oh, so you're still living there, right? You good?
Right.
We're good?
Right.
We good? We're good. You know, so I actually have a call with his attorney tomorrow to have that
Nice.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. You have
I
to
said-
let me know if you're going somewhere.
And they're out of a different state. And I said, I don't know what magic you think they're going to perform. You didn't report that you left. So
Right.
the clock's
Right.
still ticking.
Mhm.
Happens.
Interesting. All right. Let's do another video. Okay. Let's talk about what happens because you own a couple of buildings, right? You own a couple of buildings.
41 buildings, yes.
Right, but like larger.
Yes,
unit,
larger.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I want to do a video on what happens when you got tenants that are talking to each other. So we'll do this one.
Oh, okay.
This one might get a little explicit, so I might have to bleep it out. This lady, she has a colorful language.
Y'all, we got some
Okay.
community drama going on. Let me tell you about it. Just for some context, when I moved into my current house about 3 years ago, I was paying just over $1,000 a month. I have renewed since then twice or 3 times, and I am currently paying right under $1,300. Well, I had a new neighbor move in right at the turn of the year. And we would always wave, we'd like chit-chatted, but I never actually had a conversation with her. And then yesterday, I noticed that she was talking to some of our neighbors that are a little bit farther down the street. Obviously didn't think anything of it, you talk to your neighbors. But then the next time I went out, I noticed that she was a couple doors down talking to that neighbor. And it kind of looked like she was going door to door. Well, today I was going out to go to the store and she saw me and like waved that I should stop. So I stop and we're chit-chatting, whatever. And she says, can I ask you a personal question? I suppose. She says, what do you pay in rent? And I tell her and I explain what it was when I moved in, etc. Her face goes bright red. She goes, that's what I thought. And I said, if you don't mind me asking, why? They are charging her almost $1,900 a month. And we all have the same 1-bedroom model. Is that legal?
Okay, so, all right, so with this young lady right here, she's frustrated because she moved in at 1,000. Over time, it was slowly upped to a little under 1,300. She sees a new person move in. They have a conversation, as she said, this new person had been talking to lots of other tenants in the area. And this new person's paying almost 1,900. Her first question is this legal? So my question to you is this legal? And why? And how do you keep this from pissing off tenants who maybe some of them have a better deal?
Yeah, so it's 1,000% legal. Of course, it's free market. That person that's paying 1,900, gun to her head, move in. No.
Right. That didn't happen.
She saw the unit. She signed the lease. She agreed to the 1,900. I get that she's pissed. Totally get it. There could be a number of factors. There could be a factor where, let's just say maybe it was updated. Possible. Maybe it wasn't. That's very likely that it wasn't. And this is the raise in rent. I personally think that landlord's doing an amazing job. Here's why. The person that's lived with me, the person that's been a tenant of mine, it's my responsibility to reward their loyalty. That's what I believe. So I do everything I can to keep their rents low. At the same time, too, when I have tenant turnover, as a landlord, because this is a business, as a landlord, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm getting near market rents. That's the way, it's a business. This is the way that it goes. The other thing too is that, again, back to the banking relationship, because if you're going to be a landlord and you want to grow, you have to show the bank. They're the ones that look for this. They look for you getting near market rents or over market rents, depending on what the asset is. They want to see that. So I think again, there's nothing you can do about your tenants talking to each other. That's fine if they want to talk to each other. That's fine. But this woman's all bent because she's paying $1,900 and she's going literally door to door to find a shoulder to cry on. You didn't have to move in there. You didn't. And if the other existing tenant cares so much, tell you what, we'll raise your rent to $1,600 and we'll knock hers from 19 down to 16. Are we good?
Right. Yeah, that's not happening.
If she were posed with that option, would she do it? Of course not. So let's not feign the sadness and the watery eyes. It is what it is. And so if you want to, by all means, if you are one of my renters and you're watching this and you hear that one of our other tenants in the same building is paying more money, by all means, reach out to us. We are more than happy to adjust your rent up to adjust their rent down. Happy to do that. Not a problem.
So I house hack a duplex, and I'm on a small plot of land where there are 3 identical duplexes, completely identical, built by the same builder at the same time, right next door to each other. 1, 2, 3. I'm at the one in the middle. And since I moved in back in 2018, I have consistently had the highest rents for my duplex compared to the two landlords. And so when I've had conversations with the other landlords, it's not always just the tenants who say, oh, it's not worth that much. Both of the other landlords have said to me, I can't believe you're getting $19.50. I can't believe you're getting $21.50. It's not worth that much. And when I set my rents, I set below what the market rent is because I want to get the most applicants.
Sure.
And part of me, and I hate to say it like this, part of me thinks they're older, they don't know how to use the internet, and I don't know where they find their rental prices. But if you just go on Craigslist at apartments.com and just type in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, you can find that I'm grossly underpriced for this area. So when you say it's not worth that, my thought is, when a lot of people say, oh, my house isn't worth what someone's going to pay for it today, these people bought these houses 20 years ago in the 90s when they were just made. They paid $150,000 for a duplex that I paid $450,000 for, that today is valued at $750,000. And so conceptually, for them in their mind, it's hard for them to wrap their brain around the fact that, look, this thing has tripled in value. When I used to get $800 a month, it's now tripled in value, along with all of the other costs. And as time went on over the years, as they would start to place a new tenant, I'd get that text or that phone call from them being like, what are you rent yours for again? Yeah, I think I'm going to try. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a few hundred less than you. And now on all the other units in here, they're all, except for the one guy who's lived there for like 8 years, everyone who's been replaced as time goes on is now matching what my rent is, because these other landlords realize it does actually bring that much money in. It is a fair market value. And for them, luckily, I don't think their mortgage has gone up because they bought, 20 years ago. But at some point when they go to sell, they're going to sell it this new $700,000 price, and somebody else is going to be pissed if it's only bringing in $700 instead of $2,100.
Well, it's not going to get that number. It's not, because rents largely drive and certainly help drive what you're going to get from a cost. So I can buy a property because I know that what the rents are, and then we'll just put in a business plan that says, we're going to work with you. It's not, we don't want you out. I don't like that. I don't like buying a property and then kicking everybody out. I don't do that. I've never done that. What we always do is we want to get to know people. We found some really great renters that way. We've also found some really bad renters that way. But we give them 3 to 6 months to prove it to us.
Yeah.
We give them 3 to 6, are you easy to work with? And easy to work with doesn't mean you never report a problem. It means when you report a problem, you're not like, well, I have to be there. Okay, well, then this is the time that they can be there. No, that doesn't work for me. Well, I need to get in and fix it. You can't have it based on your schedule, based on your timing, when you want to be there. Like, we want people that are easy to work with. And we always tell people, listen, that contractor has been vetted. That we've had them for our plumber we've worked with for 18 years. Almost all of our guys, we've worked with them for over a decade. We've never had one complaint about something missing or something being an issue or leaving a mess behind or any of this other stuff. We've never had those issues because we wouldn't have those guys as contractors anymore. Right. And so this has been one of the things that I think a lot of people miss is there are costs that you don't know about because you've never been a homeowner. You don't know that these things go up. Your taxes on your house when it was valued $200,000 and now valued $750,000. Have your taxes gone up?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah. The city loves to send me that little piece of mail that says your property value has been reassessed at this higher value. So your taxes are going to go through the roof. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I've literally had properties where my taxes have gone from $4,000 to $9,000.
Yeah.
That's $5,000. That's a lot of money. That's $420 a month or $418 a month. That's a lot of money. And so that $450 a month, listen, guys, this is just simple economics. If it's costing me $418 a month more, I have to pass that down to the people because I'm responsible to my bank where I have to show them the margins that they want to see in order for me to do the next deal, to be able to provide housing to the next person. So this is how they're all interconnected. So yeah, I think that your landlords next door are the kind of guys that I buy product from. You know, I had an appraiser call me and say, "What are you getting for rents on that property?" And I said, $3,000 a month. He goes, "That's absurd." I go, I posted it on a Thursday. We did showings all day Saturday and Sunday. I had 15 qualified applicants. What do you want? Like, that's the market. And the people that got it, teared up. The people that got it teared up. They were grateful that they got it. And they even said, we've looked at places that were far worse, that were even more expensive. So I love being able to do that for people. I love being able to meet my bank's needs, make my tenant happy. I'm making the money that I need to make because this isn't free. My time isn't free. This is a business. But I love it when it works out for everybody and everyone understands. The funny thing is that new tenant that's paying 3, they were thrilled because they looked at the market. They saw the market. They've been shopping for, their exact words were, "We've been looking for 4 months."
Jeez. Oh, that's a long time.
Looking for a nice place for 4 months. Now, the tenant next door, $2,500, complained and screamed and cried about it going from 23 to 25.
But good luck finding something somewhere else cheaper, as the new tenant has just illustrated.
$3,000, they were happy. They were ecstatic. They cried. So that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And if you've walked a mile in that person's shoes where you've been looking for 4 months and you're like, thank God we finally found something. Like they were elated. And they even said, "Can we sign a 2-year lease?" I said, "I would love to." And they said, "Really?" I said, "It's going to cost me exactly the same to evict you if you don't pay with a 1-year lease as it does with a 2-year lease. My hope is that you stay the 2 years. I'm willing to take the same amount of money for 2 years for that, continuity." So yeah, I think landlords, again, just have the conversation with your tenants. They're people. And if that's already adversarial with people and they're already giving you a hard time, then yeah, I mean, my guess is that you probably have some people in that group that aren't giving you a hard time. It's just the market. I didn't make the market.
So I got one more video that I think we'll watch. And this one is from the perspective of the landlord. And it's actually extremely hard to watch. It's emotional. You feel really bad for the guy. He's just had his apartment destroyed by tenants he tried to help and be a good person for. And so this video really illustrates from the landlord's perspective of, as a tenant, when you're frustrated with your landlord not helping you out or things like this, or not being willing to accept people with bad credit or something like that, you can understand why. Let's watch this video. And we'll see how this guy, and it's hard to watch. He gets emotional.
I ask you to leave because you did not pay your rent. I asked you to leave my house. I wasn't evicting you. I didn't want to even put an eviction on your record. I just asked you to leave my house and you do. Like, because I asked you to leave my house and you wouldn't leave, talking about, "Timmy, you gonna have to take me to court." You do all this though? Like, I ain't never did to you, never. I gave you a place to live when nobody else will give you a place to live. And you tear me up. Ain't no scams, ain't no insurance on this. This really come out of my pocket. You gotta have insurance to pull a scam, dumb. Like you did me because I asked you to pay me my money. I work hard every fucking day. I go to work and stay out the way. I don't bother nobody. I didn't care if you was in this doing whatever the f doing. I told you, long as you keep my house up and pay me my rent, I wasn't going with y'all. Ain't no landlord doing that because I know y'all gotta feed y'all family like I gotta feed mine. This what y'all do to people.
All right, so that one is really tough to watch. You're looking at this guy who's walking through what you can tell was a nice rental property. It had nice flooring. It had, the white trim. Looked like it had a stainless steel fridge. The bathroom, all the windows looked brand new. And all you see is there's paint splattered everywhere. Every window in the entire house has been ripped out and left in the center of the floor. They went into the bathroom and smashed the sink and the cupboards and the cabinets and the laundry room, and they destroyed the laundry machine. And this guy's frustrated. And if you hear what he said, he's like, I took a chance on you. I tried to help you out. I wasn't going to cause problems if you were doing illegal things. I just was trying to help you out. And he's like, I didn't even want to evict you. I just asked, if you can't pay the rent, could you please leave? And that's what they did. So what were your thoughts on that one, Matt?
I had that happen last year. Worse, much worse. That was bad, but that wasn't as bad as the one I had. I'll send you the link so we can put it in this video so people can actually see that video.
Sure.
We opened the door with the sheriff to serve. The sheriff served the tenant. He then walked out and left. The sheriff walks upstairs when he got the tenant, walks down, he looks at me, and I can see it in his eyes. And he just says, I'm so sorry. And I said, sorry about what?
That's not a good sign, man.
He goes, yeah, he goes, that's the worst I've ever seen.
Dang.
I was like, the worst you've ever seen? How long have you been a sheriff? And he goes, 13 years. I'm like,
Yikes.
oh, this is not going to go well. And so I have a video, but we walk up and it was, he put holes in every cabinet door. He ripped cabinet doors off. He ripped every lighting fixture off the ceiling. He smashed the porcelain tub. He smashed the porcelain sink. He used the toilet, but didn't flush for 2 weeks.
Ugh. Gross.
Broke out every single window. Took a hammer to every single appliance. Took a hammer to every single appliance. You know, he was the same type of tenant. It was somebody that we gave a shot. It was actually an inherited tenant, but it was an inherited tenant that the old landlord that I bought the building from literally took a chance on it. I never raised his rent ever. Never raised his rent, not even once. Over the year and a half that I was his landlord, he called maybe 5 times. We had everything resolved within a day or two. Nothing that was an emergency. At the end of the day, what that is that actually is a felony. What he did. That's a felony because it's so much money in damages. It's a problem. So for those landlords out there that have seen this happen, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen. I promise you it will happen.
Yep.
And you just need to be emotionally in a position where you understand, and I get it, like it happened. Thankfully, we've had that happen a few times. We've actually taken over a house. We had a beautiful home that I restored myself, that a woman, she would go on the road for a week or 2 at a time, and she had 2 cats. And she never emptied her litter boxes. She would just put a new one out with litter box with cat litter in it. She sent me an email saying, hey, I'm all set. I'm moved out. There is some cleaning to be done so you can keep the deposit. I said, okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll swing in. I swung in, and literally the top 2 floors of the house were covered in cat feces.
Oh, gross.
And on the 3rd floor, this was a 140-year-old farmhouse or barn house, or farmhouse actually is a better explanation. And the original hardwood floors were ruined with cat urine.
That's so sad. That's so sad.
And those were floors that I had stripped myself and polyurethane myself and restored them myself. So I completely get where the guy's coming from. This is the sad truth about the fact that you will run into these problems as a landlord. If I knew him, if he was a buddy of mine, I'd probably send him a care package of the 3 or 4 products that he needs that I know are going to help fix that mess. But largely speaking, like those windows, there's no replacement for those windows. You're going to have to rip those windows and redo them all. So yeah, I mean, I think as a landlord, you need to understand that it's not all peaches and cream. These are the issues that you will have. And what I will tell you too is that we really do a lot of times go with our gut. You know, we have our criteria and we work with people, but no good deed goes unpunished is a reason that saying exists. I've gotten got, and the people that I've gotten got with, I knew it. I knew that I had the feeling that it was like, I'm not sure. There's just something about it. One of them was a total shock. The other 7 or 8 were not. The other
Yeah.
7 or 8 was just like, they were desperate and we wanted to help people and we helped them and they did nothing but basically screw us over. So
Mhm.
yeah, I feel awful for the guy. I'd love to do a collab with him. I'd probably look him up and say, hey, would love to do a collaboration with you, maybe teach you the way to repair this as inexpensively as possible.
Right.
Still make it look nice, but that's heartbreaking because a lot of mom and pop landlords, which it sounds like he is, they only
Mhm.
have a couple of units, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4 units. And it's like you take a $5,000 hit for that. You're showing up to your job. That just wiped out a year and a half or 2 years.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And if you want to pursue the guy in court, like follow up in small claims, like I would file a criminal case. I would call the cops,
Mhm.
file a
Mhm.
report, send a bunch of the pictures, and I'd stay on the cops to make sure that they're, at least trying to find him and make sure that make restitution.
Right. File the charges at least. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a
That's
cop, as a cop, what would you, I mean, do you not see that at all?
so. City police officers spend a lot of time handling things like this. So would the sheriff when it comes to an eviction. I work for the state.
Yep.
And so I don't get involved in the eviction process as a state officer. However, because I'm on our SWAT team, I get the privilege of going into houses with people who are living in these houses very much like this. Apartment complexes and houses where you go in there and there's, as you mentioned, cat feces and the place is completely destroyed. And you can tell they're having problems with their tenants because they're having problems with us and they're having problems with everybody because it's just how people live. Sometimes it's sad, but this is just how some people choose to live their lives. And so I have only ever done a couple of cases like this. There's a few areas where there's no local city officers because it's small towns, and then the state would take control and help out and be the jurisdiction, the law enforcement jurisdiction in that area. But yes, if you're over $750 of damage, it's a misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor. And if you're over $1,500 of damage, it's a felony. I mean, that's 2 windows, max 2 windows. And
Yeah.
you're looking at felony charges. The downside is in a state like Washington, that's very anti-landlord. It's going to be very tough to get prosecutors in certain counties where certain cities are to actually take things like this seriously. They should. It's written in the law. I can find the law that says you cannot do this, and I can obviously identify it to a person, and then all a police officer does, all that the police ever do is refer charges. A lot of times people are frustrated when criminals they walk or they don't have any penalties, right? Well, at the end of the day, the officer's job is to come out, interview you, take a report from you, document the damage, document the evidence. We compile the evidence, which is the interviews, the reports, and everything like that. And then the suspect, who obviously you provided us with their information and probably texts and emails about them admitting to, well, I'm not going to leave without you making me. You take all of that, you hand it over to the prosecutor and you say, I recommend these charges. Here's the law, here's the law, here's the law. These charges be placed against this individual because of this evidence. Once I've done that, it's completely out of my hands. I have no power, no say. Doesn't matter how much I wish that the law worked the way that we all feel it should.
Sure.
If the prosecutors have decided for whatever reason, as they have here in Seattle, well, we're no longer going to prosecute thefts unless the theft of a business is over $750 because we have too many thefts for us to prosecute. So it's not worth our time. And that is legitimately things that happen in major cities like San Francisco and Seattle. Homeless people walk in with a bag into a pharmacy like a Walgreens, and they just start scooping shelves of stuff into the bag, and then they throw it over their shoulder and they walk out. And if somebody tries to stop them, they'll get punched in the face. If an employee tries to stop them, the employee will be fired. If the police show up, they can't even use force to go detain this person. There's nothing that happens anymore except you maybe show up and take a report, and then the business owner can use that on insurance. It is very sad what happens in areas like this. They even hire officers off duty after hours to come in uniform to provide additional security. And you're still not allowed to do anything to these people other than say, no, don't stop. And then when they do it in front of you and run off, you say, well, have a nice day. That's literally all you can do. It's very frustrating. And one of the reasons why I don't want to live in Washington anymore, I am excited to hopefully move to Florida one day.
Well, I think one of the bigger issues too is that you look at that and that's going to cost, that insurance is a margin game. And with those things getting more and more expensive, with them having more and more claims, with there being more and more there, insurance is going to be a lot more expensive. The deductibles are going to be a lot more expensive, and the cost of business makes it a lot more expensive. And it's just simple math that then that makes all the products more expensive because you have to tack on the expense of the fact that X amount is going to be stolen, loss that you're going to have that loss. So yeah, I think the general rule of thumb is treat people how you want to be treated. And if they don't treat you that way, just recognize it. And then if it becomes a thing that you allow to continue to happen, then you're to blame. You need to remedy the situation, you need to get yourself out of the situation. And we've seen that as landlords. We are very respectful. We understand. We actually have a tenant that is just on us constantly about every little thing. And I'm going to call this person. I'm going to call that person. I said, I think you'll be much happier living somewhere else. And we're ready to rehab your unit. So you can, here's 60 days notice. We're going to rehab your unit starting in 60 days. He's just never going to be happy there. And quite frankly, the unit needs rehabbing. And we're happy to rehab it and allow him to find another place to live. It's not ideal, and we've tried for years to not have that be the case, but he's just gotten to the point where he's belligerent about everything. And he's, telling me that it has to be fixed within 24 hours or he's not paying rent. That's not reasonable. Like, you can't get any contractor out there that fast. And it's silly things like a cabinet handle or a door handle or little things like that. And it's like, I'm not trying to trivialize it, but I got to send the guys to the week first. We'll get you on the list, but we plan out our week. So we'll try and squeeze those things in throughout the course of the week. But we already plan our week because I have to make sure that my guys are busy and that they have enough work. Because if they spend so much time driving from place to place, they're like, how am I supposed to make any money doing this? So I have to set them up with jobs that they can make money on. So, and still be paying a market wage. So one of those things, but yeah, sad to see for sure.
That is the landlord equivalent of what we call sovereign citizens as a police officer. So we get these people who are like, you can't pull me over because I'm a free traveler upon the land. And Section 9 of the Articles of the Confederacy states that you can't talk to me. And you're like, bro, oh my God. And these people, they're known, they harass law enforcement. They don't have license plates. They don't have driver's licenses. You pull them over and they don't roll their window down. They're like, am I being detained? And you're like, yes, I'm stopping you for a traffic stop. Am I being detained? Yes. And what it is these people have spent too much time on the internet watching some YouTube lawyer who's not even a real lawyer talk about how you don't have to comply with the police and you don't have to do this. And if they pull you over, just, it's like, great. All right, that's fine. But if you're doing 100 miles an hour and you get stopped, yeah, dude, it's going to happen. And this is the landlord equivalent of, sweet, I watched all these videos that say, if I can find something that needs to be repaired and they don't do it in 24 hours, then I don't have to pay rent. It's like, bro, I'm sorry. Your cabinet handle is not going to be a call out the emergency serviceman in the middle of the night. We'll get it taken care of in a few days. You're going to be just fine. So there's all kinds of people in every field of work, unfortunately. But Matt, that's all I got for you today, man. Those are the videos we have. Maybe we'll do it again next week.
Love it. Absolutely would love to. Hopefully, if this is helpful to you guys, put it in the comments. Let us know the type of stuff that you have questions about being a self-managing landlord. That's what Mike does. That's what I do. We are here to answer those types of questions. And short of questions, we're just going to keep on finding videos of people doing stuff they shouldn't be doing. We're going to talk about how we would respond and how we would handle. Mike, where can everybody find you, my friend?
Just, go on Google, YouTube, or Instagram and type in Millennial Mike and my channel. All my stuff should pop up. 2
N's, 2 L's, right?
That's right.
There you go. That's where a lot of people make mistakes. It's 2 N's, 2 L's.
It's 2 N's, 2 L's on YouTube. It's 1 N because the 2 N was taken on Instagram. But I'll put the little link in here so somebody can find it easier.
Perfect. Yeah. And we'll also put a link in the video for you guys. I actually walked up the stairs with my phone rolling. So you can actually see exactly what that apartment looked like. And this guy got off light. Mine was way worse, sadly speaking, but it is what it is. So as I always say, we try and create great content for you. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Super fun hanging out with you, Mike. Appreciate you. Have a great week. Glad you're feeling better. And we will do this again next week, my friend.
Sounds good, buddy. I'll see you then.